orange, everything, blue and orange, everything.
And live. Yo, what up, Knicks Nation? We are back with another Game of the Week preview. You already know what it is. We got the Detroit Pistons on the docket for tomorrow. So who better to help join this show and preview tomorrow's matchup between this tough, gritty Pistons team trying to bring back that bad boy era. Ku Kahil, he covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons. You can go watch him, or I should say, read his stuff over at Fansite. He covers the league at large, and go make sure to check out his Substack as well, okay? So make sure to stay locked in. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Yeah, man, stay locked in. We got a good matchup for tomorrow. This team has given us a run for our money, and, you know, we're probably going to see this team in the first round. What it looked like it was going to be the Milwaukee Bucks, it looks like it's going to be the Detroit Pistons. Bad boy Pistons. Let's go, baby. Cool. My guy, how you feeling today, man? What's going on?
I'm feeling good, man. Like I was just telling you, I've just been chilling, playing Warzone all day. So,
yeah,
you know, always down to talk about the Pistons, you feel me?
Pistons, Warzone, Verdansk is back. Let's go, people. For all those Warzone fans out there, we got Verdansk back for, you know, another week and a half or so. So make sure to keep grinding out there, you know. I'm first and foremost, just to be off topic from the rip. Thank God this map came back. It's one of the very few times a game has been right the first time, its first iteration, and then next thing you know, it just went downhill rapidly. Caldera, they took away even like Rebirth, they took away Rebirth. It's like, dude, you are messing everything up. Like, get back on track. There was a good portion where I was just playing Rebirth for a good minute because, look, man, the battle royale maps were just like too hard.
Bad.
Even the most recent one, like aesthetically pleasing to look at, but just way too expansive. You're running out there in dirt for like 10 minutes before you even see one person. It's too long, man. Absolutely too long.
No, yeah, me and my friends had been playing Resurgence leading up to Verdansk coming back. Once we heard that Verdansk was coming back, so we were trying to grind and get ready for it. Verdansk just plays way different, man. It plays so much more fun. It's like the old days. Still, snipers are a little out of pocket, but you know, it's a lot more fun than the other maps have been.
That HDR is crazy, man. I mean, I mean, that's the other thing. Like now we're becoming a gaming podcast. Look. They want to make this game so realistic with like the movements and everything, but you're telling me that a snipe to the head is not going to take you out in one shot, but now it's like 3 shots. Nah, they brought it. It's crazy, man. I'm just happy it's back. I'm happy it's back. But for the people that don't play Warzone, all right, sorry that we had to go a little off track, all right? This is just what we like to do in our spare time. But let's get back on track because there is a basketball game that's to be had tomorrow, and it's between the Knicks and the Pistons. So, cool, I got to ask you first, though. What has been your thought about the New York Knicks this season so far?
So it's interesting that I'm on the pod today because, or the show today, because I've written 2 articles the last week about the Knicks. I wrote one a few days ago for Fansite. I just wrote one for my Substack today because they've been playing so well as of late, and their defense has picked up since February 28th. I wanted to get into and look at it. So my overall thoughts, without going too far into it, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but my overall thoughts are I'm really interested to see with this Knicks team because they've been so good offensively really all year. They've been one of the best offensive teams, but defensively they've been really bad. But then once Mitchell Robinson came back, OG Anunoby came back in the same week at the end of February, they've been like a 7th-ranked defense over that span. So I'm really interested to see if that's more Jalen Brunson being out, so now you have one less bad defender on the floor, or if it's about Mitchell Robinson and OG Anunoby coming back and kind of, you know, completing that defense. I'm interested to see how that plays out, not just against the Pistons potentially in the playoffs, but if they beat the Pistons moving forward. Because I thought you guys played them really, the Boston Celtics really well the other night as well. So I'm interested to see if that defense is real or not.
Yeah, I think the defense, I mean, I'm very curious to see how real the defense is. I mean, they played a really good job against the Celtics, as you mentioned last night. It was a tough game down to the wire. Even when we talk about going into OT, we're talking about, you know, miscommunication, you know, lack of adjustments to some degree, and just blips, you know, mind farts, right? I mean, how do you leave Sam Hauser wide open for an easy layup in overtime, man? First play, like, come on now. Like, we can't be doing that. And I would say that the defense with Mitchell Robinson looks legit, and it probably is legit just because Mitch just being a rim deterrent is so different than having Karl Anthony Towns being the anchor of your defense. And Mitch, his athleticism, his ability to guard the pick and roll, his ability just to deter anybody who wants to just attack the lane, helps out the perimeter players, whether that be Hart, OG, Bridges. Those guys get a boost defensively because with Cat back there, you have to work 3 times as hard to make sure that you keep your guys in front of you. With Mitch back there, you're like, all right, I can take the edge off a little bit just because if they're going to get past me, then I know there's going to be somebody else that's going to be like, absolutely not. You're not doing this today. And then you got to think twice before you put up a shot. I mean, even yesterday, you see, I forget who it was that attacked the lane and they put up a shot over Mitch. And it's like they have to, put even more of an arc to get over his reach. And that just, altering shots without even having to touching it. That's just what Mitchell Robinson can do. So I do believe the defense is real. The issue is that Mitch hasn't really played much in the sense of like since he's returned, like 15, I think max was like 18, 20 minutes one night. And so I know they're keeping him on ice just so that he's ready for the postseason. I do believe the defense is real. Just from like the struggle that the team had, the Celtics, I mean, against them yesterday, the defense is there. The question is Tibbs going to have the right lineups out there to close the game or make sure that you can even extend the run? So, it will be a good test tomorrow, especially for a team that's very hot, man. Like the Pistons are just, you know, on a great. It's great to see them back, just because we were talking about this like off stage for a bit, where Pistons, Knicks fans, like you guys, like the Knicks Twitter, social media, like it's cut from the same cloth, man. When the Knicks were bad, there were still active people on Twitter like, yo, man, this team, man, like we love this team. Everyone's just like, we're talking about Frank Ntilikina, you're talking about Kevin Knox, like who's gonna be the next person? Like just get ourselves out of here. And we're talking about just, we were talking about the bracket between like all of like the big Pistons content creators and how you had Blake Griffin getting out there, Tobias Harris, and all these guys, and you just see, it's a ravenous fan base, just like the Knicks fan base. And so I know that I know the Pistons have been waiting for a moment like this, so that way they could see their team just like back on like the big stage. Talk about your Pistons, man. How's it been this season?
Yeah, I mean, this year has gone better than I think anybody could have possibly imagined. Even the most hopeful Piston fan won't get me to believe that they expected this season to happen for them. I mean, I've said this in every podcast I go on, I've said this over and over. Their over under before the year was 25 and a half. Like that, and they crushed that like 2 months ago. They surpassed that a long time ago. Before it almost was like not even halfway through the season, and they had already passed that. So this season has been spectacular. Kay Cunningham has silenced all the doubters. He's taken another leap in his development. And you've seen development from Asar Thompson throughout the year. You've seen development from Jalen Duren throughout the year. The added veterans have really come through to help smooth this team out. Whereas in past years, didn't feel like veterans were really bought in or really wanted to be here. They have a good nucleus of young guys and veteran guys that all want to be here. Trajan Langton, the Pistons GM, has talked about this. They feel like they have the best locker room in the NBA, and they're really trying to build that culture. And I think that is a big deal and a big reason why the Pistons are having such a great year, because they all really like each other. They all really want to play hard for each other. They want to play hard for JB every single night. And you just didn't have that the last few years, especially last year at Monty Williams, who didn't appear that he even wanted to be coaching the team.
He didn't want to be there, man. We all know he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. So having JB and having these veterans and Toby and Malik and in THJ, having all those guys, even though they're not star acquisitions, they've been stars in their role and in the locker room. So I think that's made a huge difference. And lastly, just this team was, when you looked at it before the year, one of my concerns was I didn't feel like they had much defensive personnel. And even now, looking at the roster, I don't feel like you look at it and say they have defenders all over the roster, but they've still somehow found a way since January to be around a top 5 defense. And a lot of that has to be attributed to Asar Thompson and how much of a defensive menace he is for opposing offenses, but also Jalen Duren's gotten better. Kay Cunningham as an off-ball defender, weak side rim protector, has been a lot better this year. And they're getting the veterans to play hard. So this has been an overall just huge surprise from almost every area for the Pistons this year. And no matter what happens in the playoffs, I think Pistons fans and the Pistons organization is going to be extremely excited about the future, no matter what happens. Whatever happens in the playoffs is just a cherry on top now.
So it's the Knicks Station. Thank you all for tuning for another Game of the Week preview with me on the other side is Ku Kahil. He covers He covers the Detroit Pistons for Locked On Pistons. Make sure to go check out his Substack. Make sure to go check out his NBA written work over at Fansided. And make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right. So you said that, they've surprised you in many different areas this season. That them being the Detroit Pistons. What is the biggest surprise from this season, though? Like, there has to be something that stood out. So what is it?
It's not Cade because I've always been high on Cade, and I thought Cade had this in him, and I thought people just weren't paying attention much to him, rightfully so, because of the team being so bad. So I don't think it's Cade that was the biggest surprise. I guess player-wise, it's tough. Player-wise, I'd say overall them being this good defensively. It really is like a shock to me that it heading into January 4th. The Pistons were a bottom 10 defense. They were not a very good defense. In the month of December, they were one of the worst defenses in the NBA. I believe they were 28th in the NBA. They were not very good defensively. Asar Thompson was inserted to the starting lineup on January 4th. After that, they've been a top 5 defense. The fact that Asar has been is that impactful and that much of a game-breaking defender to where he's warped the Pistons defense. It's not just him. Having him on the floor makes it easier on Jalen Duren as a rim protector, makes it easier on everyone else on the floor because you have him there. So the fact that they've become one of the best defenses in the NBA just from inserting him into the starting lineup and that just spearheading their season, I believe they're like 28-14 since then. Like, they've been one of their top 10 in offense, top 10 in defense, top 10 in net rating for over like a 40-game sample. They've legit been one of the best teams in the NBA, not just a feel-good story anymore. They've been one of the better teams in the NBA for over 40 games now. And in large part due to the fact that they've been so good defensively since that moment, and now they're getting on transition. They're getting on fast break and really killing teams with their athleticism and their three-point shooting on the wings from THA and Malik Beasley. Like, the defense being as good as it is has been a major surprise to me.
And, that defense is what, it's what is so hurtful to this Knicks team in the last 2 matchups. So let's talk about those last 2 matchups. I mean, the Pistons are 2-1 against the Knicks this season. I know that Cat has missed, I think, either 1 or 2 games, or maybe it was like Cat missed a game and Brunson missed a game. I forget what it is. But watching the Pistons and the Knicks play, the thing that has bothered the Knicks this season is young athletic teams are able to get out in transition, just be active on defense. Asar Thompson, as you mentioned, like, he is just, man, talk about jumping passing lanes, using his wingspan just to deter people from, like, attacking from the perimeter. I mean, it's awesome watching him and his brother on the Rockets. I mean, both those teams are just like thriving now. It's not funny, but it's great, I should say. It's great how both those guys are just in great thriving situations. But that has definitely been kind of the Knicks' Achilles heel, though. It's like what I said, playing young, fast, athletic teams, and the Pistons are also pretty physical. From those, I guess, first 3 matchups, what is your takeaway between these 2 teams, like play style wise, like how the Knicks come out and face the Pistons, how the Pistons come out and face the Knicks? Because for the Knicks, part of me feels like they understand there's a mission at hand. You don't make trades for OG, Bridges, and Karl Anthony Towns without thinking that, all right, we're ready to go compete for a championship. And sometimes it feels like they overlook opponents, and like they're just asleep at the wheel. And I get that. It's a long season, 82 games. But for a team that has a lot to prove, like losing to the Pistons, a young upcoming team where these guys are all, veteran savvy, been in the postseason, you would expect this team to, be a little bit more buttoned up when they play the Pistons. But the Pistons are hungry. Look, they're looking to come out here and make some noise. So once again, what has been your thought between these first 3 matchups, or all 3 matchups so far between these 2 teams?
Yeah, I think that. So I have a few matchup dependent takeaways on the court and some schematic stuff that I saw through these matchups. So like the first thing Pistons fans would immediately point to is Cade has walked into Madison Square Garden and not been scared at all. He's walked into Madison Square Garden and had 2 amazing performances, getting a win in both those performances in Madison Square Garden. Had one of his better performances, I believe, in the second game, and was just picking apart the Knicks defense, whether it was from scoring or making the right read off a trap, off a blitz, getting the ball out of his hands early, finding the corner skip pass. just was surgical in that second game. So I think that would be the biggest takeaway for Pistons fans, is that they have someone who is not afraid of the bright lights in Madison Square Garden with the celebrities on the court side, all that stuff. But I think schematically, one of the things I've taken away, and I believe Cat, I think he played one game and then the other game he got hurt. His thumb got hurt in like the first quarter, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. Schematically, what I've seen is two things. On the Pistons side, and I was just talking with Locked On Knicks host Gavin about this today. We recorded a podcast today about this. It seems like teams against the Knicks have often tried to put like a guard or a wing on Cat and then hide their big man on Josh Hart and kind of just let the big man roam. And I think that's something we saw a little bit of against the Knicks versus Pistons. They started off with Duren against Cat. Duren's not very good in space against bigs, not very good on the perimeter, and obviously Cat is one of the best perimeter bigs we've ever seen. So that was a bad matchup, and the Pistons quickly switched to putting Tobias now on Cat, putting Duren on Hart, and they had some success on it, even though Cat kind of had some success on the offensive glass and kind of making them pay in that regard. It kind of minimized the Knicks half-court offense to a degree, and kind of limited Cat in the half-court offense because they were helping down on all of his drives, and he wasn't necessarily making the pass that was there. And you can't really blame him as much, at least from my point of view, because he's kicking out to a Josh Hart, who the Pistons probably want you to be kicking out to. So that's the one schematic thing I saw from the Pistons side. From the Knicks side is something I think they're going to do if they match up in the playoffs. They trapped Cade a lot in that second game. In the second game, Tom Thibodeau decided to blitz him a ton, trap him a ton, get the ball out of his hands, especially in the second half, because the Pistons don't have another shot creator in the half court. They have some guys that can push in transition, some guys you'd like to see with the ball in their hands that can do a little bit, but no one on their roster, now that Jaden Ivey is out, is a legit shot creator outside of Cade. So Tom Thibodeau is doing what I expect most playoff teams to do to them once, obviously they get to the playoffs, is trap Cade, get the ball out of his hands, force someone else to beat them. And the Pistons were able to get that to happen in the second game. Malik Beasley, I believe, 2 open threes at the end of the game to kill the Knicks. Trapped him, got the ball quick to Jalen Duren. He made the swing, THA. Then, helping real hard at the nail on the wing. He makes the pass to Malik Beasley. So I think from the Pistons side, I think I'm really interested to see how they guard Josh Hart if they match up with them playoffs. And then from the Knicks side, I'm really interested to see does how they played in that last game against the Knicks and having Malik Beasley and having THJ kind of end it at the end of the game because of so much attention on Cade. Does that push Tom Thibodeau away from trapping Cade still? Or is it one of those things of you don't believe it's going to happen 4 times in 7 games kind of thing? So those are the things I'm interested in.
I would probably go with the latter and saying that he probably believes that it's not going to happen every single time, like 4 times in a 7-game matchup, just because, you talk about Malik Beasley. I'm glad that you brought that up because he did go off against the Knicks. He went 7 of 13 from the field, 7 of 10 from downtown. He's not 70% from the perimeter, which, very hard to do on a night-to-night basis, but that's kind of the Achilles heel of this Knicks team as well, is that not only is it young athletic teams, but we know that they're like one of the worst 3-point perimeter defenses too. They love to collapse. They love to protect the paint more than the 3-point line. And Tom Thibodeau's philosophy is that we will take the gamble that, you won't hit the 3, and it's like, you really want to take that gamble in today's NBA where, you leave anybody wide open from anywhere. They can just knock down threes just like a practice shot. Not my favorite ideology in today's NBA. Maybe when you're back in the early 2000s and no one's really putting up threes like that, we can do that. But I'm always asking for him to switch that up. But I do believe that we're going to see, trying to trap Cade again, unless is Ivy back? I know he was injured for a minute. Is he going to be ready for the postseason?
I extremely doubt it. If he is, I think it would be a mistake. But as of right now, he hasn't even been cleared for basketball activities. I wouldn't expect him back anytime soon.
That would be the only other guy that I would say, all right, if you have Cade out there, do you really want to double? And, I know Ivy is just a guy who can get downhill. He's got speed. And so maybe you want to stay home a little bit just for a guy who brings that dimension to the team. But, I would say, and this is no disrespect to the Pistons because everybody on that team is just, played out of their minds. But it's like, you start looking at Tobias Harris, who got, kicked out of Philly last year for how he performed in the postseason. Timmy, we're very familiar with Timmy's game and what he did in Dallas, like having a decent season, hasn't really shown up in the postseason as well. And so I think when you start going down the line of like who is it outside of K that you have to go guard, I think Tibbs will just say, we'll take the gamble with anybody else, but we know that Cade can go get his, and that's the last thing that we need is Cade just to be in rhythm and then, just causing problems, which we saw. We've seen that all the time, and so I think he's going to go with that matchup, and that's, for like a defensive standpoint, it's just watch out for Cade. And that's like when I look at this team, I'm saying, who is going to be the next person? Is it going to be a Malik Beasley that just comes out here? Like somebody else has to get hot, right? And I think that's where this is still going to be a battle. I'm not overlooking the Pistons whatsoever. It's going to be very physical, and that's probably the biggest thing I'm curious about for this Knicks team, because last year, if it was the last year's Knicks team, I'd say, all right, that team is ready to go. Like metal bats are coming out of nowhere. Everyone's going to be having their their brass knuckles. That's the type of matchup it would have been last year. This year, I don't know. I don't know about that. We still got some guys from that team, like obviously Brunson, Hart, McBride, Mitch. Those guys are all gritty players. OG's a gritty player too. Let me throw him in there before I start getting spammed in the comment section. Say, what about OG? He's been hooping. It's some other players, man, like Mikal Bridges, Cat defensively, especially. Like, will those guys match to the intensity of what the Detroit Pistons are going to bring? And sometimes in that regard, I feel like that can just throw off a matchup too. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think obviously the Knicks are going to be favored in the series. If the Pistons match up with the Knicks, which it looks incredibly likely, they will be favored in the series against the Knicks, and they should be against the Pacers, and they should be favored. They're despite everything that's said about them, they are the third seed still. Their offense does have an incredibly high ceiling with Brunson and Cat on the floor. Jalen Brunson has been a playoff superstar. He has been absolutely sensational in the playoffs. So they should definitely be the favorites. I think the Pistons, from the Pistons' point of view, they haven't won a playoff game since 2008. It's been 17 years since they have a playoff win. They'd want to break that playoff win drought. So as soon as they do that, I think immediately Pistons fans would be like, okay, successful. But they do want to win the playoff series. And I think they have a chance. They just have, again, it's going to take some. Again, you've brought up how THJ and Tobias haven't had greatest playoff series. That is true. I'm interested to see, does Cat have a good playoff series for the Knicks? Does he? Because he's been a little up and down the last few years as well in the playoffs. The Knicks just have way more talent than the Pistons. They have a deeper team. They have a higher offensive ceiling. The only chance the Pistons have at pulling this out is if they really make it a half court game for the Knicks in the offense, turn them over on the offensive end, get out in transition, run and score on fast breaks and transition. That's the way the Pistons win this game and win this series. If Asar Thompson can clamp up Jalen Brunson, if he can do a good job on Brunson, turn them over. If I'm interested to see what Tibbs does with Hart on the floor, because I do think the Pistons will put Duren on Hart and have him help around. Last year in the playoffs, Hart hit a few clutch threes against Philadelphia to help them win the series. Does that happen again? Does it, you saw against the Lakers earlier in the year on national TV, Lakers just basically didn't guard Josh Hart. And that was part of the reason why I felt like the Knicks lost at the end of the game and in overtime, because Jackson Hayes was kind of allowed to just take everything away. They were able to double Jalen Brunson. So I think that's where it's going to come down to. The Pistons are probably going to want to live with Josh Hart trying to take shots from the corner, wherever he's spotting up from. They're going to help down. They're going to trap, I think, Brunson a lot, and they're going to try and make Cat make the play out of the short roll. They're going to try and make Josh Hart make the right play cutting down from the corner or making the open catch and shoot threes. So again, the Pistons, and like I mentioned earlier, the Knicks are playing better at the right time. Their defense has gotten better. OG Anunoby over the last month and a half has been absurd. They're getting Jalen Brunson back, who is a known playoff performer. It's going to be tough, but the Pistons have a route to do it. It's a very small margin of error for Detroit, very small margin of error, and it's going to be incredibly hard to do so. But if Cade shows up in Madison Square Garden like he's shown up so far this year, and you create open threes for Malik Beasley, who's had 300 threes this year, he's one of 5 players to ever do it. If he's able to continue to hit shots, if Cade's able to continue to create shots for these shooters, and they're able to get out in transition and run on the Knicks, that's their chance at doing it. But it is going to be incredibly hard to do so against a very talented Knicks team.
And I think that's you talk about getting out in transition, and that's just the hard part in the playoffs because everything goes into the half court, right? Everything comes down to execution in the half court. The game slows down a lot. Game becomes more physical, which would go, in my opinion, to the Pistons' edge. But as you've noted, the Knicks' offense has just been absurd. And even with Brunson returning against the Phoenix Suns, OG was still in his bag. Brunson was just wearing off the dust. And when you have five guys that you can rely on, like, we have four players on this team that have scored over 40 points this year. And whenever Josh Hart gets into 20, it just might as well be considered as a 40-point game just because it's like for what he does, just playing all over the place and in a good way, right? Like this is a guy who could be like a free safety, strong safety, linebacker, like on this team and just do everything, whether it's diving for a basketball like out of bounds or on the court. Like he does legitimately everything. And the energy that he brings is so infectious. So with that being said, with the offense that we have, good. And I think with Mitch defensively, it will cause problems. But I'm still curious. You can't overlook anybody, man. Can't overlook anybody. Guys can get hot during the postseason, so it should be an interesting matchup for this Knicks Pistons. I guess play a postseason matchup, man. It's going to be an interesting one, man. I do expect that to happen. But last question before we start getting to before we start getting to the actual matchup for tomorrow. What is the vibes for Pistons fans right now? Is it like, yo, we're just happy to be here? Like, do we have to go win a series right now? Like, what is the actual vibe? What is like the measuring stick for this season for Detroit?
So the, it's a success, and there's nothing that could happen that could make the season not a success. Every person in the Pistons community is happy. The fans are happy. The players are happy. The team's happy. Like all of this, what's happened this year. There's nothing that could happen to make this a failure of a season. Nothing could happen. They again, their over under was 25 and a half, and they locked up basically the sixth seed 2 weeks ago. Like not the play-in. They went from the worst team in the NBA to being a top six seed and not having to go through the play-in. That is like way more than a successful season for Detroit. But they do want to win. They want to win a playoff series. They want Cade believe he's said it multiple times. He believes this team can win a playoff series. He believes he can lead them to a playoff win series. So I think the vibes are really good. Again, if they were to go out and lose to the Knicks, no one's saying, "Oh, the sky's falling, it's over, we failed," blah blah. That's not happening. But they're not necessarily walking into the playoffs saying, "It is what it is. We don't really care anymore. Whatever happens, happens. We're happy." Like they still are expecting a chance to win a series. And I saw that I've seen Knicks and Pistons fans going at each other as of late on Twitter a little bit because there has been some thought from at least from what I've heard over the last few weeks that the Pistons would rather play the Knicks than the Pacers. So they're kind of wanting this matchup. Now, whether that's going to pay off, I mean, we'll see in a few weeks. But it does seem like the Pistons want this matchup over the Pacers in the playoffs, which I think probably does make sense because of Indiana provides some mismatches that the New York Knicks probably don't to the Pistons, such as like Pascal is really a problem, and big wings who have a high usage within the half court really kill the Pistons. And I don't think the Knicks really have that. I think it's more so Brunson, Cat, and if they try to go high usage, I know OG's been playing amazing. Do they kind of give him some more reps? That could be a way that they really torment the Pistons in the playoffs, if they kind of give him some more reps and more usage within the half court, because the Pistons do struggle against bigger wings. But the Pistons, it seems like the Pistons want this matchup and the fans want this matchup. So there's a level of belief within the fan base and within the team that if they do get the Knicks, which it seems like it's likely, they believe they have a chance to win. So going into the playoffs, vibes are good. If they lose, it's not a big deal. They don't care. It's not that they don't care. Let me take that back. It's not like the sky's falling or anything, but they do think they can win. So that's where they're at right now.
And look, why shouldn't a fan base and a team feel more confident than facing a team that they've already beaten twice during the regular season, out three times? And we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I understand that. And look, I would say that for OG and Bridges, like Bridges has been an interesting topic for the Knicks this season just because of his inconsistent play and what we've hoped for him to be. And I've said this on a post game show where I've come to terms with this is who he is as a player. He's inconsistent. Like probably like as a third option, he's all right. Like in the sense like where you're playing the Hawks, Hornets, teams like that, you're like, all right, we all know he's going to go out there and cook. When he plays against good teams like the Celtics, the Cavs, you're like, where are you, man? Like, can you show up? Like, you know that meme where it's like the guy who's poking like the thing that's like asleep with the stick is like, yo, do something. That's exactly what it feels like sometimes when you're watching Bridges out there, and you know, between him and OG, they can both create in the half court. Bridges, I've said this earlier in the season, he reminds me of Rip Hamilton, man, with his mid range, like just how he can run around screens, the speed that he uses just to get to like, whether it's just like, what was it? Like the high post, just like pulling up from there, going from like, it's just like, it's so reminiscent of that game where he makes it look very natural and he relies on it a lot, but he's good at it. And then with OG and what has developed over the last month, he looks very comfortable attacking in the half court. Like his best thing to do is to work off ball, so cutting to the hoop, looking for open threes. But he's shown that he can create a little bit off the dribble. It's nothing flashy. It's very fundamental, very basic, but it works for him. And so it's worked in matches. So I would expect him to continue to run with that to work off the confidence that he's built since Brunson has been out. So I would say, that could be, if you're talking about, do the Knicks have big wings that can work the middle of the court? They definitely do. We'll see if they're still in rhythm. That's always a thing. It's like between both of them, and more so Bridges than OG, are they going to be in rhythm at the right time to actually help the Knicks get that advantage? So that's what we will be waiting to see. But salute to Knicks Nation, everybody. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We got Ku Kahil with me on today's show. He covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons. All right. You can go check out his written work over at Fansided, and also make sure to subscribe to the Substack. But people, you already know what part of the show this is. We got to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and free pick. And look, people, I will play an Underdog. It's a lot of fun. I like to think that, I know a little bit about sports, man. I like to think I know my ways around these parts. And so what's cool about when you create a ticket on Underdog, all you got to choose is 2 to 8 players. And the more players you choose, the more money you can actually earn. And all you got to do, and you can mix and match from all sports. So it could be NBA, NHL, you got baseball going on right now. So you can choose anywhere between 2 to 8 players across all sports. I'll stick to NBA for the most part, but you can mix and match throughout all sports. And all you got to do is just choose higher or lower on any statistical category. So whether it be points, rebounds, assists, it's all you got to do. Choose higher or lower. And that's the simplicity of the game. And you'll earn money. And if you believe that you can get all your picks right, then go with it, man. Go for the home run. But the cool thing is that you can go with the insured route. And so all you got to do is just win a few of the picks, depending on how many you choose, and you can still earn some cash. Now, the other part of Underdog Fantasy is that you can also do fantasy drafts. So if you think you got the best GM mind out there and you can beat your friends, invite some of your friends, put up some beer money, lunch money, and go check out to see who can create the better team. So you can do all of this at Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. All right, now let's get back to the actual show and let's talk about this matchup, man. Cool. Let's get into the details of this game. All right. So you talked about Detroit likes to get out and run and attack and transition. And that is where, interestingly enough, if you look at like the miscellaneous stats on NBA.com, the Knicks are actually, you would think that the Knicks are great at stopping teams in transitions and off of turnovers because they're ranked third right now. They limit teams to about 16 points per game. But that isn't always necessarily the case. Sometimes they have a lack of communication when getting back in transition and knowing who to guard. But they're one of the better teams based on how often it happens in the league. So I think, as you mentioned, this is going to be a big area of focus in tomorrow's game. And for the Pistons, who have that defensive intensity, I know they're going to try to force the turnover. What do you think about that as a battleground between these two teams tomorrow?
Yeah, I think obviously that's going to be like it's going to be strength on strength, and we've seen that already in this matchup against the Knicks, in the Knicks Pacers matchup, or not Pacers Pistons matchup. Now I know the Knicks they're not playing, I believe, OG I think they're sitting 3 starters, aren't they? They're sitting OG, Mikal, and Carl Anthony Towns, I believe.
So let me pull that up right quick because I do have it here. So for tomorrow's game, where is it? Give me 1 second. So OG right now has a right thumb sprain. Josh has right knee, he has runner's knee, and then Mitch they're essentially saving him. He's probably not going to play tomorrow,
Okay.
because of after the left ankle for just to maintain the ankle. He had a bad spill yesterday, so probably make sure that he's just like maintenance. They probably want to see him against Cleveland too. He hasn't played any back to back since he's returned, so I wouldn't expect him to play tomorrow. But OG and Josh Hart are also out against the Pistons tomorrow.
Yeah, so it'll be Jalen and Mikal and Carl Anthony Towns will still be there. So still some firepower, but obviously not the full strength New York Knicks. The thing with the Pistons is they've won against This is what has made them so good this year is that teams that normally do not turn the ball over and normally do not allow fast break points, the Pistons are so good defensively that they're turning those teams over, and that's where they've had their success this year. Their half court offense is not very good. Their half court offense has been around middle of the pack. They're not a great half court offense. The reason why their offense has been successful is because they're fifth in points off turnovers and they're second in fast break points. They love to get out and run. They're going to get stops. They're going to get steals. Asar Thompson's going to frustrate teams. He's going to get some deflections, lead out into transition. They're going to get some transition through from Malik, from THJ. That's where they love to live at. And because of how good they've been defensively, they've allowed themselves to turn over teams that you would figure are pretty good offensive teams and take care of the basketball. Same thing. They did the same thing against the Boston Celtics, who are second in the NBA in allowing points off turnovers. But when they went against Boston last month, they were able to turn them over. Even OKC, they only lost by 8 points to OKC or not 8 points. They ended up losing by double digits, but the score was like a 6 point game with like 2 minutes left. And that was without Cade. And it was simply because Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren were able to get stops defensively and they were able to run. So even some of these better teams that don't turn the ball over and take care of the ball, etc., that's where the Pistons have really tried to live at. It's been strength on strength. And for the majority of the season so far, the Pistons have won more often than not. Do they win it every night? No, they're not perfect. But that's why they are where they're at. Is more often than not, their strength is overpowered opposing team's strength of taking care of the ball. This is what I wanted to ask you guys a question if that's something I could do real quick.
Yeah, you can look, man. I like to have a full-on conversation on the show. I like when people ask me questions instead of me just like, interrogating them about their team. So feel free. What's the question?
All right, so this is why I wonder about. There's two things I could looking at this series, and obviously, like I said, I've been looking at the numbers with the Knicks and written a few things about the Knicks the last week or so. There's two things that I find interesting from the Pistons' point of view that I know they're going to look at. I just want to see how what the Knicks' point of view is like. The first thing is, so like I said, I watched the Knicks play against the Lakers. I've seen them play against the Pistons. Is Tom Thibodeau how attached is he to Josh Hart? Because I think Josh Hart is he going to play Josh Hart no matter what? Because I do think that any team, not just the Pistons, but the Celtics, the Cavs, if you beat the Pistons and move on to the Cavs or Celtics, whatever, in the second round, every team is going to put their big on Josh Hart and have them roam. And I feel like against the Lakers, I mean, I'll bring it up again. I feel like at the end of that game, the fourth quarter, the Knicks weren't able to score in the fourth quarter. I think that's largely because Jackson Hayes was kind of helping down. They were doubling Brunson a ton. Even on that final shot going into overtime, they inbounded the ball to Jalen Brunson before half court, and he got doubled before half court because they just weren't guarding Josh Hart. They weren't able to get a shot off. It was confusing to me why Tom Thibodeau would have him on the floor in an offensive needing possession, knowing that teams are helping off him. So my first question is, do you believe is Tibbs so? I guess the better question is Josh Hart that important and so positive to this team that no matter what, he should be on the floor, even if teams are schematically trying to take him out the game offensively? Or is it more of a Tibbs is just like, hooked to Josh Hart and just likes him so much that he thinks he does more than takes, I guess, within a game?
Now, I love this question just because I could already hear for everyone listening in the future, everyone listening right now in their home, that they're laughing that you're asking this question because is Tom Thibodeau attached to Josh Hart? is hilarious because the answer is yes, and everyone was like, oh, "Is this guy attached to Josh Hart?" Let me tell you something, man. This he might as well be Tibbs' son, long lost son. And it's like you remember what was it? Hey Arnold, where it was like pass the ball to Tucker.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you know that episode where it's like,
yes.
yo, pass it to my son because my son's like, I just love my son. I want to make sure that he's involved at all times. Tibbs might as well be that coach from Hey Arnold, be like, yo, Josh Hart will always get the minutes. He may not always get the touch, all right, but he will always get the minutes. So yes, he is going. Tibbs relies on him, I think, to a crutch just because of what I said earlier in the show. He brings a lot of energy. He's a do it all, do everything type of guy, and because of that, and because of his conditioning, because of his grittiness, because of his heart, no pun intended, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt from Tibbs a lot of the time. And so that is like the most frustrating thing for most of Knicks Nation, where he shrinks the court, especially when he doesn't shoot. You can go back 2 years ago where the Knicks faced the Miami Heat, and there's a big controversy where it's like, not necessarily controversy, but big debate, I should say. Do you play Quentin Grimes over Josh Hart in the final minutes? Grimes, who started at the two guard the entire season, shooting the ball very well, was recovering from a shoulder injury in the postseason. But it's like, all right, so he missed some time against Cleveland, comes back against Miami. Let's leave this guy out here because even if he's not hitting in shots, which he wasn't in the postseason, he's still a threat that you can't leave him wide open. Unlike Josh Hart, if you're going to leave him if you're going to leave him out there, they're just going to leave him wide open and just be like, we dare you to shoot the three, because most of the time you pump fake and drive and just collapse into a wall. And we're more than happy to accept that than you taking a three, because more often than not, that's your tendency. So going back to your original question, yes, he does. Tibbs does rely on Josh Hart, and I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Hart was playing for tomorrow if Tibbs relied on him. Since he's not playing tomorrow, I'm very curious to see what direction that he goes now. It's going to be Miles McBride. We know Bridges is going to be out there. Cat's going to be out there. Brunson's going to be out there. I'm curious to see what's the direction now with no Josh Hart, no OG Anunoby, no Mitchell Robinson tomorrow for facing the Detroit Pistons.
Do you think that Josh Hart? So it seems like my read is that it seems like the Knicks fan base does not believe it's worth the squeeze. Is that what Hart brings to the team is not worth the squeeze of how much Tibbs relies on him? Is that a true statement, or am I off there?
What do you mean by so? Like, what do you mean?
Do you think Do you think his impact on the floor is so much that you have to do it and live with his offensive limitations?
No.
Or okay,
no.
okay, there you go. Okay,
no. Look, there's been, even from the start of the season, people have asked for Deuce McBride. I always believe that you can leave Josh Hart in as a starter. It's not necessarily who starts the game, it's who's closing the game for me. Like, you could start the game. Like I said, I always go back to, what was it, when Mike Woodson took over for D'Antoni. They always had Landry Fields out there starting the game. And it's like, the man played like 5 minutes and never closed the game. He went to J.R. Smith and whoever else was on the team. And that's who they went with, because they knew that it doesn't matter who starts, it's who's closing the game, who's hot, who's contributing during those moments. And so for Josh Hart, he's an energizer guy. Love the way that he plays. Very valuable for this team. Do the trade 10 out of 10 times, all right, to bring him to the Knicks. But offensively, you can't just shrink the court. And this is kind of like we've seen Weinersworth, him, Mitch, and Precious out there on the same time. We're like, what are we doing here, man? Like, we can't be having all three of these guys out here. There's like no offense. So there has to be a decision that's made. So no. The long answer giving you that, but the short answer is no. I love Josh Hart. Great player. All right. Well, I respect that he wears the number 3. He gives the same passion as John Starks. But no, you don't need to close with him on every single night.
All right. So the next question I had was, and I was talking with Gavin a little bit today on our show, on the show we recorded, but wanted to ask you your thoughts. So going back to like the matchups for the Pistons versus the Knicks, do you think, like you kind of mentioned, and I know how well OG's been playing. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe over the last 25 games, he's averaging 24 a game on 61 true shooting. And I know like he scored over 28 points like 3 or 4 times in the last like 8 games or so. Like he's playing extremely well. but that's without Jalen Brunson on the floor. So my question is, because if I'm the Pistons, what I'm assuming the Pistons will do in a matchup against the Knicks, they will put Cade on OG. They're gonna put THJ on Mikal. They're gonna put Asar on Brunson.
Well, OG's not playing. Are you talking about postseason?
Overall.
Okay, okay.
So I think they're gonna put THJ on Mikal, then Asar on Brunson, Duran on Hart, and then Tobias on Cat. So the question I have is obviously Jalen Brunson is the superstar. Jalen Brunson is some of the performances he's had in the playoffs are crazy. He had 3 straight 40-point games against the Sixers to close them out last year. Like he's absurd. Despite what OG's done so far over the last few weeks, do you believe that they're going to take away some of the usage from Brunson now that he's back and in the playoff will be in the playoffs, and Cat, who's had a phenomenal season? Do you think that they will take some of that usage away to try to punish the Pistons with the wings? I think the Pistons game plan will be, we don't believe that you're going to go to Mikal Bridges and be like, hey, Mikal, go take advantage of the THA matchup while Jalen Brunson and Cat stay in the corner. Like, I think that's the gamble the Pistons will take. I think the gamble the Pistons will take is, we don't believe that you're going to take away Brunson's touches, Cat's touches to give it to OG and let him attack Cade. I believe the Pistons are going to take the gamble and believe that their offense is going to be predicated on this pick and roll with Cade or with Brunson and Cat. They are going to go to their 2 best offensive players, and we just have to try to shut them down. We don't believe they're going to give enough usage to OG or Mikal to really try to punish us at those positions. Whereas, like I mentioned earlier, they're a little bit more scared of Indiana because Pascal is like number 2 on the report, and he's probably their best scorer on the team, so he gets so much usage. Do you think that Tibbs, is that something they've done throughout the year? Have they ever if they see, because Gavin mentioned that there's been times where, like against the Atlanta Hawks, he mentioned the Hawks put Trey on Mikal. And do you believe that's something that Tibbs would be like, okay, they're trying to take advantage of this. They're trying to go to these, try to guard these wings with smaller guys. Will he just say, that's the matchup for this series, we're going at them? Or do you think he's going to just stay with what's worked all year for them, which is Brunson versus Cat, and just say our players are better than yours, we'll beat you guys head to head?
I think for 43 minutes, anything can happen. I think absolutely we could see OG have the opportunity to attack the Pistons, even Bridges. Of course, you're going to get the Brunson Cat pick and roll. Both those guys are on the floor by themselves. They're going to be attacking as well. The thing about the Knicks is that there's really good ball movement for about 2 to 2.5 quarters. And then middle of the third and the fourth quarter, it starts to go sideways. And at times it doesn't. At times we'll get to see that ball movement again, but you know, anything can happen, I'll say, for 43 minutes. The last 5 minutes of the game, that is when it goes to Jalen Brunson. And I expect it to go that way just because Brunson, one of the best clutch players in the league, Tibbs is going to rely on just, for the last 5 minutes, give it to your best isolation scorer and let's have the ball in his hand 9 out of 10 times because we know that he can create a shot for himself. On top of that, we've seen him perform over the last 2 seasons, even when he was a Mav. And you could say, you know what? You got to give this guy the rock and just let him go out there and do his damn thing just because he's proven time and time and time and time again that he can go out there and go get his. I'm not always a fan of that. I think you got to switch it up, and especially for the postseason, just because, you want to keep defenses honest. And if everyone knows what is about to happen, we see even in yesterday's game where they take away Brunson against the Celtics. Next thing you know, from an out of bounds play, it gets to Josh Hart, and that's not the guy that you want. Speaking about, do you believe Josh Hart in all moment? Yes, we have Josh Hart in a moment where he gets the rocket. It's like, yo, we don't need that guy, trying to take the last shot. Once again, love Josh Hart, but there are 3 other guys ahead of him that I'd say, yo, go like Cat being number 2, Bridges and OG. Right now, I'd probably go to OG just because of like how he's been in inferno and just like the way that he's been playing basketball, then Bridges, then Josh. But if he has a wide open shot, take it. But I think for 43 minutes, you can expect anything. And I think that Tibbs would allow. And I'm not saying necessarily scheme up because that's another criticism of Tibbs that I have over here is that he doesn't really design plays for guys to like go get activated. Like he has set plays, right? For like, all right, we're gonna run this, we're gonna run this, we're gonna run this, we're gonna run this. And to a fault, it's like it's too, planned out where it's not necessarily reading the game as it unfolds. Like there was a game like first year as a head coach where we had Austin Rivers just go nuclear. Like man didn't miss a shot and put up over 20 points. Next thing you know, he's pulled out when he's on an absolute heater. And you're like, wait a minute, why'd you pull this guy out? Like he hasn't missed a shot. You leave him in until he misses a shot, and then you're like, all right, now you can take him out. And so I think the biggest fear is that Tibbs, like if he sees a player struggling, and he did this with Grimes too, is that he wouldn't call a play to get them activated. And that's like kind of my gripe with like the whole Bridges situation because it's like a Grimes 2.0 where Bridges is not being aggressive enough himself to demand and command the ball, but Tibbs isn't also alleviating the situation by saying, let's design a play for you right now, get you going for a few moments, or even just say, hey, with the second unit, let's run you out there like we used to do RJ when he was on this team, and that's your unit. You go out there and you go cook. All right. So that way you can be in a rhythm. So could they? Yes. Could he absolutely do? Could that happen? Sure. I wouldn't say like I wouldn't like bet my life on it, like on how things will like unfold, because it also comes down to are the guys feeling it that night? Because some nights like guys have it, some guys don't, and that's the reasons why they're third and fourth on the pecking order when it comes to the offense. Because Cat, one of the most efficient scoring bigs in the league, Brunson, one of the best scoring point guards in the league, so it's always going to be them. But I wouldn't put it past this team to say, yo, let OG and let Bridges go do their damn thing. They've shown that more than enough times they're capable of doing that. And I'd say the thing with this team too is that they play so well off ball. And Cat has been a good passer out of the high post that these guys is all they have to do is just cut between Hart, OG, and Bridges. That they'll cut, they'll find open space, they'll get the layup. OG will finish through contact, and they'll just get easy buckets that way. So there's more than enough opportunities for those guys to score, and it's not necessarily those guys attacking in the half court. Is that when the Knicks offense is truly clicking and all these guys are moving and no one's standing around, that's when they're at their best. They're a very tough team to beat that way. When they are standing around, you're asking all these guys to go be their own creators. That's when this thing gets bogged down a little bit, and that's where the default is. All right, Brunson has to be like, all right, you guys aren't doing anything. I got to come in here and now save the day. And so it's a mixed bag. But I don't think there's necessarily like a right or wrong answer to your question. I think it could go either way.
All right. I have if we have any time, I do have one more question I want to ask you about.
Hey man, let's go, man. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So from the Knicks' point of view, is there anything about the Pistons that you've seen through that they've seen through two matchups that have like concerns, or do the Knicks look at does the Knicks fan base look at the Pistons as we just have more talent? We have Cat, we have Brunson, we have Mikal, we have OG, we have Josh. Like we just have more talent than them. We are going to out talent them. Or is there anything from those two matchups that have any Knicks fans or anyone in the Knicks community like, hey, they showed something in those two matchups that we might have to we might have to look out for? I tend to think that it's more just Knicks or Pistons are a good story, but we just have more talent than them. We will out talent them when it comes playoff time. But is there anything? Is that not the case? Is there anything outside of that? Anything that those two matchups said about the Pistons from the Knicks' point of view, or is it just when playoffs roll around, we will out talent them because we have more talent?
You know, because this is the call-in show after post game, and we got a live chat right now. Like, I can tell you that it is very much a mixed bag amongst the fan base. Whereas some will believe like we're good, we're gonna take out the Pistons, no problem. We got part of the fan base. They'll be like, yo, it's gonna be a tough climb. The Pistons are it's not only a good story, but they're a tough defensive team. Like they're gonna play tough, and we can't just go in there thinking that we're the hottest thing since sliced bread, and we're gonna walk through these guys. And then you got your another part of the fan base. It's like we're doomed. Like we're not tough. We're not gritty. We're gonna lose this team, and we're gonna be ousted in the first round. So it is definitely a mixed bag amongst the fan base. And I can't even give you a percentage because you could see like you go on Twitter, you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, you look in this chat, you look in the comment section. It's truly like I don't know if you drew like a pie graph, it's like everyone is cutting out a third. Honestly, that's just kind of how it feels. So, um, honestly, it just goes to who you're talking to. For me, I don't look past anybody. You're at this moment because they worked hard to get there. And so they've also beaten us twice. And I know while the regular season doesn't necessarily mean a lot with regards to what could happen in the postseason, it's they're still a tough team, and they showed that they're capable of beating the Knicks. So I would say that this Knicks team has to come ready, has to be focused. Attention to detail is a big thing for this team because sometimes they fall asleep at the wheel, just like they've done, whether it's playing against the Cavs, the Celtics. And even though there is a great talent discrepancy between these two teams, and I think we could, like you mentioned it. I think everyone would be honest about that. Like on paper, there's a reason why, as you even say, like why this team is third, and their offense is just through the roof. Like this team probably should come out victorious, but I don't think it would be easy. I don't think Detroit's going to they're not going to give an inch. And I think for every point that the Knicks have to earn, it's going to be tough. Look, Isaiah Stewart is a physical guy. Okay. Cade, solid defender. Like you look up and down this depth chart, there's a reason why you even talk about the Pistons defense being as impressive as it is because look, Thompson, awesome defender. These guys are out here and they're ready to play. So Jalen Duran, like solid rim protector, man. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for this team. They're not just going to go out there and be like, this is a cakewalk. Now they could prove us wrong, to be the most locked in team that we've seen this entire season and do that. But I don't think they should look past anybody. And I think they're going to take it seriously.
Yeah, the Knicks are probably like one of the most like from like an outsider's point of view, outside of the Pistons, obviously, who I'm going to be watching obviously closely and rooting for, to do well. The Knicks are the only, like one of the only other teams in the playoffs this year that I'm really going to be interested to see. Because let's just assume they do or if they were to get past the Pistons, or even we can go like before that. I'm interested to see like, what is the Knicks ceiling truly? Like how good are the Knicks actually? Because like we've mentioned, and like at least from my perspective, the Knicks are much more talented than the Pistons. It's not close. They have McHale, they have OG, they have Cat, they have Brunson, a proven playoff guy. The Pistons expect Cade, and Cade's given reason to believe he's going to be a playoff riser, but we've never seen it. Who knows? We know that Jalen Brunson was one of the best playoff performers over the last 3 years. Like we know that. And I forget who else I forgot. And they have Cat, who's been, I think, an All NBA player. I have him in my All NBA third team. He's been tremendous. Their offense can have a crazy ceiling. For me, it's like I'm just wanting to see how much of the Knicks. And I'm sure this is probably some of the frustration with the Knicks fan base as well. Is that how much of the Knicks are reality and how much of the Knicks are just the idea of the Knicks? Because it's been like since January 4th, 44 games when the Pistons like put Asar into the starting line. It's a 45 game sample. The Pistons are fifth or seventh in net rating, and the Knicks are 14th or 15th in net rating. And their defense is we already talked about their defense. They're, I believe, where are they at? I just lost them. 16th in defense. Their offense is still great. But the Pistons actually since then have been higher than them offensively. Now, obviously, Jalen Brunson was out for like 20 games, and that has a huge part of it. My thing, are the Knicks favored in this series? 100%. Would I put my hard-earned money on the Pistons to beat the Knicks? I would not. Do I think the Pistons have a chance? Sure. But even if they get past the Pistons, how they look against the Pistons and then how they look after that, I'm really curious to see because I feel like a lot of what's happened with the Knicks and at least what people think about the Knicks, it seems like we're waiting for the idea of the Knicks to actually play out. And the reality for 40 games has been we're still waiting for that like idea of the Knicks. Is that how Knicks fans feel, or is it not as I guess maybe that sounded a little pessimistic, but is that how Knicks feel? Because I truly like I look at this
Man,
team, I say there's no reason why this team shouldn't be, like they should be a really they shouldn't be 0-9 against Boston, Cleveland, and like they should be better than that. So at least from my perspective, like I said, I feel like it's still waiting for the idea of the Knicks to become a reality.
I wouldn't say that is too far off. I think this is where it now becomes almost like a 50-50 split and not really a pie. It's like, all right, what is this team? To your point, like, we've lost to the Celtics, we've lost to the Cavs, we've lost to the Thunder. Uh, Now people want to throw the Lakers in there. I think it's a little craziness because Luka just
It's
legitimately
just like
happened.
it should
Yeah.
never have happened. It's
And
just
then on
like
top of that, like they got really hot the first matchup. Granted, the Knicks folded in prime time. And then the second matchup, like we lose Brunson to an ankle injury, and that man was cooking, like absolutely cooking. Without Brunson, that whole it's like, all right, what do we do now? And so you just see like when you don't have Brunson out there, team looks vastly different when they don't have their captain, floor general out there. I would say that, yeah, man, look, we know where they stand. We know where this Knicks team stands. And it's speaking to a lot of people this season, it's like they're a second tier team. They're second tier. Can they actually compete with the upper echelon of the NBA? Can they compete with the Cavs, the Thunder, the Celtics? It's yet to be seen, except until yesterday, where they're out there competing with the Celtics, and you're like, okay, we got some life here. The Cat came out super aggressive. He was focused. He was determined. He took advantage of every single mismatch. Drew Holiday, who was a good post defender, as a guard who was giving some trouble to him this season, even Julius Randle when he was here. Cat was feasting on that. Jaylen Brown, I know he's dealing with like a knee issue right now, all right, a bone bruise, but Cat was like, I don't care. I'm going to score on you too. And you just saw it in his eyes yesterday saying, I'm going to make a point that this is who I am and I'm ready to play. And so with that, I think that Cat being like that takes it to another level. Mitchell Robinson being back takes it to another level. OG guarding Tatum takes it to another level. So there's a little bit of life that we got to see from the Knicks saying, okay, we're now really not that far. We're not that far off. The champs are still the champs. Can we take them out in a 7-game series? Going to be a very difficult task to do. Extremely difficult. Okay. Because there's still the attention to detail. There's the coaching issue I have with what are the rotations going to be in the final minutes. There's a lot that needs to be answered before I say, yeah, we're right there. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out, man. This team, like, they spent a lot for their bench too, and like the bench has been okay. It's gotten a little bit better. So like there's a lot that needs to happen for me to like fully be like, all right, we're right there now. This is still a work in progress, year 1 out of a year 4 type project. But for me, even though I was angry at how it ended, if you look back and you see what they just did yesterday, gotta be a little like optimistic, saying, okay, maybe we're not that far off. How many games did they win in a 7-game series against the Celtics? I don't know, man. But that's gonna be the real test.
Yeah,
But salute to. No, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say I think the Knicks like they're so interesting because I feel like there's a very clear path to them just being like absurdly good, and I'm confused why they haven't done it. I feel like when you have Cat and Brunson, you really should be going 5 out and having 5 players on the floor that can shoot at one time. It would be almost impossible to guard the Knicks, especially with the. It's not just any 5 man you have out there. You have arguably the best shooting big of all time out there with one of the best creators in basketball with Brunson. I feel like you're kind of like the offense for the majority of the year is like top 5. It really should be like number 1 by a wide margin. I feel like with that talent, if they went 5 out, I feel like that's the key. I know Tibbs is more of a defensive coach. I know that that's where he kind of has hung his hat for the last like
Well,
really his entire career. But
but cool, that's what they've been doing in the regular season. They've been playing with the 5 out that's been like the dominant lineup. That's like led the lineup. It's like
well,
they've
like
had the 5 out.
I don't feel like it's as effective with Hart. Like if you replace Hart with like an actual shooter that teams don't
That's why people
can't
ask for McBride.
exactly. I was just about to bring it up. I feel like McBride. I hope to see him again. If the Knicks get past the Pistons, I really do hope. Maybe it won't be enough against the Celtics or Cavs because they really are just like those teams are crazy. But if they do match up against them, I really would like to see McBride out there. 'Cause I think that's the Knicks' chance to just blow teams off the floor offensively with spacing and shooting.
We'll see, man. We'll absolutely see. Salute to Nick Station. Thank you all for tuning in for another game of the week. Preview with me on the other side is Ku Kahil. He covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons. You can go follow him on his Substack, and you can also follow his NBA written content over at Fanside. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right, let's get back to this matchup. These are all great questions. I'm happy about these questions, man. I'm happy. But let's finish up the show with the actual matchup now and get this thing out of here. So, last thing I got to talk about before we get to the key matchup. One stat area that I do want to bring back up because it does come to points in the paint. And I see that the Pistons 4th in the NBA when it comes to defending points in the paint. The Knicks are 5th when it comes to scoring points in the paint. This is like the last area where I feel like I know OG's not
Exactly.
playing
I was
tomorrow.
just about to bring it up. I feel like McBride. I hope to see him.
So it's going to be interesting to see like what like how this all shakes out tomorrow, like the battle of the points in the paint, because Cat, Brunson, guys who like to work in that area. Bridges likes to work like 15 feet within. Since we know those three guys are going to be playing tomorrow, it'll be interesting, man, to see how that works out.
Yeah, I think the Pistons probably like their matchup in that regard, especially like you mentioned with those guys being out for the Knicks. The Pistons are a team that really thrive. Again, they get on transition, they finish at the rim, they throw alley oops, they run a bunch of pick and rolls. Cade has some of the. I think he's like third in the league in drives so far this year. So they live in the paint. The Cade and Duran pick and roll has been crazy good. Asar Thompson has been picking up within the half court offense, doing a lot more. He gets to the paint. This is a team. Look, they get a lot of threes up with Malik Beasley and THJ, but for the most part, this is a team that works itself in and out. They get a lot of easy buckets in at the paint or at the rim as well. They get a lot of second chance points. I believe they're ninth in the NBA in second chance points because of Asar and Jalen Duren on the offensive end of the floor. Um, that's a matchup I think the Pistons feel. I mean, just last week they played against the Cavs without Cade and they dominated the paint against Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. I think that's one area that the Pistons feel like no matter what matchup we get, I don't care who we play against, we are going to win that matchup. Will that lead to a win? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that's if there is one area that the Pistons feel like no matter who we go against, we will win this battle. It's the points in the paint battle. I don't feel like they. That's a part of their game that I feel like they believe they can win versus anybody.
All right, man. This is going to be very interesting tomorrow to watch to see this battle. And I feel like two guys that are going to really emphasize this battle of points in the paint, even for the Pistons, man. It's going to be Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham. Those are my two. This is my key matchup for tomorrow's game. Love this matchup. Battle of the guards. Both these guys are just fantastic players. Brunson, we already know what he is. He's in top 10 of MVP voting this season, as he was last year. And we see how impactful he has been for the New York Knicks. I mean, we could talk about every single game that he's been here, and guy who can create his own shot, get downhill. This season, he's been showing his passing chops, averaging, I think, about 7 assists right now, and just finding guys in rhythm. It also helps when you have Karl Anthony Towns. You just pass it to him down the post and he can just score at will. But he's absolutely doing the damn thing too, finding open guys, creating opportunities for them as well. Brunson has just been on one, man. And then when you got Cade has been just right. He's right up there, man. Averaging 9 assists this season, 26 points per game. These guys are just both the four generals, and Cade has just been phenomenal. And the thing about Cade is, just like Brunson, uses that physicality, man, to create separation. I love watching Cade play, man. His game is just so like fits that Detroit Piston, fits both guards, fit exactly what both cities want. Physical, tough, like, blue collar type of atmosphere. That's exactly what both these guards emulate. And I'm just looking forward to it. I know they may not necessarily be guarding each other tomorrow, but still, it's going to be a duel. Like, all right, I'm going to lead my team. You're going to lead your team. Let's throw the gauntlets down. Let's see who wins this one.
Yeah, that matchup is definitely going to be. I'm really interested in watching, especially how Cade played at Madison Square Garden. I wonder if Brunson comes out trying to make a statement. I'm willing. I really want to see, do the Knicks really like how much do the Pistons or the Knicks take this seriously? Like, do the Knicks, they already have third seed clamped up. Are they going to take this specific game as serious as, obviously the playoff series, or is this going to be one of those like, we just don't want guys to get hurt. If we lose this one, who cares? It's not really going to change anything in the standings. I just want to know, like, or are they in the mindset of we want to be playing our best basketball heading into the playoffs, so let's get some good games in before the playoffs. I'm interested to see which type of Knicks team comes out tomorrow against the Pistons.
Well, we know that OG, Hart, and Mitch are not playing. As of right now, Isaiah Stewart is questionable for tomorrow. Cade is probable. Tobias Harris is probable. So Cade and Tobias are most likely going to play. As you already mentioned, Ivy is out. We don't expect him to even be back for the postseason. But hey, I think the Pistons are going to take it seriously. I still think the Knicks are going to take it seriously too. I mean, if you're putting Brunson out there with Cat and Bridges, that's still more than enough to be serious about this matchup. Look, they're trying to rest the guys that they believe are necessary for the postseason in Hart, Mitch, and OG. But best believe this is a Tom Thibodeau led team. They always believe they have enough to go
There's
compete.
no
So
nights off.
there is no nights off, my man. There are no nights off. So I expect this one to be a battle tomorrow as well. Let's get into the X factors and get out of here, Koo. Who's your X factor for tomorrow's game?
On the Pistons side or the
Yes,
Knicks
sir.
side?
No, Pistons side. You give your
Uh,
Pistons. I'm gonna give the Knicks, man. This is how we go around here.
okay. Pistons. I'd say the X factor. I feel like the X factor almost every game is Asar Thompson.
Mm.
If he plays well, they usually win. If he's able to impact the game offensively, if he's able to stay out of foul trouble and play great defense as he's done the majority of this year, if he's able to stay out of foul trouble, guard Jalen Brunson with relative success, and then impact the offense how he's been the last like 6, 7 games. He's averaging like 16 points a game. He's playing extremely well. If he can get out in transition, if he can get to the basket within the half court and make teams pay for how they want to guard him, they usually win games when he's able to do that. I expect Cade to have a good game. Cade always has, always plays well. Asar is their X factor almost. I feel like almost every game. If he can play well, stay out of foul trouble, they always have a good chance at winning.
All right. So Asar Thompson is your X factor. My X factor for tomorrow going to be Deuce McBride. I am curious to see because if you're not going to have Josh Hart, the next guy up, Deuce McBride. I'm curious to see how Deuce performs tomorrow when he's knocking down threes, getting to his bag. He just elevates his team to another level just because you want to talk about that 5-out spacing. If he's doing all of that, then you're truly going to have some 5-out spacing. I know OG's not playing tomorrow, but if you did have McBride out there with OG, that gets what you were talking about earlier. And so with McBride, because he gives you that dimension, it just opens up the lanes for Brunson and opens up the pay for Cat to attack. So look, it's gonna be McBride for me tomorrow, man. He also brings that intensity defensively too, man. Like he'll always guard 94 feet. This man does not conserve any energy. He is ready to defend 94 feet. So you got Thompson, I got McBride. That should be a good matchup, man. And yeah, appreciate you for coming through, Coop. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. If you got any work up and coming, we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Twitter at Kook Hill. You guys can find the podcast Locked On Pistons podcast wherever you listen to any podcast platform. Also, obviously over on YouTube, we just passed 10,000 subscribers, which was super dope. You can also find my work over at Substack, kookhill.substack.com, or you can just look up Pistons Kudos. Also, you can obviously follow some of my NBA writing over at Fanside as well. Appreciate you guys having me. It was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this matchup not only tomorrow, but probably for the playoffs. And hey, Knicks fans, take it easy on my guy James. All right, let's take it easy on my guy, man.
Oh man, hey man, he threw like look, man, if you're gonna go fishing,
I saw his tweet today.
If you're gonna go fishing, man, you know what's gonna happen. All right, if you're gonna be throwing some bait out there, you know you're gonna get some piranhas. Okay, so hey, it's on James, but hey, welcome to the New York fan base. Welcome to the Knicks fan base, and that's what happens, man. Knicks ain't dodging no smoke, man. They're ready to take on whoever. So come on now, man. Come on, James. Come on. Oh, I don't know if you know this, but around these parts, and shout out to Cody Glock, legendary caller for the show. He gave James a nickname because his name's James Edwards III. He's given the nickname Trilogy. So we call him Trilogy around these parts.
Oh, that's a dope. Does he know about that?
Yeah, he does. No, he was on the show.
I'm gonna text him right now and say, "What's up, Trilogy?" and see what he says.
There you go, man. Let him know. Just let him know that he's been honored thanks to Cody Glock to be called Trilogy. But cool, appreciate you for coming through as always. And to Knicks Nation, appreciate you for always tapping in for another game of the week preview. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. Also, remember, if you can't catch the show live, there's two things you can do. You can be part of the replay gang later tonight, tomorrow, wherever it may be. You can always watch this show on YouTube, okay? You can always do that. Go to the library, check it out, leave your comment. Hey, even if you don't feel like leaving a comment, swipe over, check out the chat and see what people were saying during the show, okay? And if you can't watch the YouTube channel because you're on the road, you don't want to be watching TV wherever you may be, hey, maybe you're in the office and you can't even watch YouTube. We're on every audio listening platform. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. So make sure to go check us out as well. Also, we got a newsletter. Make sure to go subscribe to the newsletter. We got a bunch of great writers over there doing the damn thing. On top of that, that's where you can keep up to date on all the merch, all our sponsors, where if you want to get any of their products too, and just to be informed whatever's going on in the channel. So make sure to go over and subscribe to the newsletter. All right. So appreciate you all for tuning in once again. Let me Let me shout out some franchise channel members. We got the legendary Chuck D in here. Make sure to throw a hashtag PE public enemy baby. Shout out to you, Chuck, for always being in here. Chuck always in the mosh pit. Shout out to my guy TM for being the chief mod in operation. Who else we got in here? We got Zach in here. We got D Cannon here. D Cannon 93. Shout out to you. Who else we got in here, man? I saw John Talento in here. Saw my guy Junior Karoma. Shout out to all you guys. I saw KG Sevenfold in here. Shout out to you, my man. Well, who else we got in here? Who else we got in here? We got Rare Edition, of course. Rare Edition laughing when Koo asked about does Tom Thibodeau rely on Josh Hart too much. He already knew what he just couldn't hold himself. It's okay, man. We already know what it is. Shout out to everybody for always tuning in, man, and appreciate you all. Make sure to tap in tomorrow for play-by-play and for post-game live. All right, we'll be back at it as always. All right, everyone, we out.